Hey guys, I'm Josh Valor, and today we're going to be talking about the Sony Mdr1As. And I do believe that this is the first Sony that I have reviewed. And because of that, I do want to make a quick disclosure about Sony. You know, there's a lot of hate for Sony in the audiophile and audio lover community, but I don't really share that sentiment. I think Sony as a company, as the entire company, they have their hands dipped in a lot of things. They've got TVs, they've got cameras, which the camera filming this right now is a Sony, and they make headphones as well as many other things. Now, if we're just looking at the audio portion of their company, the actual headphone portion of their company, kind of like any other audio company out there, Hyphen, Odyssey, Sennheiser, really you name it, there's going to be products that company makes that I like and products that I don't like. Now, among the products that I like and we'll be reviewing soon, I actually have the Sony Mdr1As. These are their flagship headphone, and I think this is a great closed-back headphone. Now, on the dislike side and the products that are not that great lies the Mdr1A. Now, there are a lot of good and bad things about this headphone, but what really makes this headphone a no-go for me is actually nothing to do with what this headphone does. It's what the competition is offering at a fraction of the price, and we'll talk about the alternatives near the end. Now that little monologue is out of the way, sorry about that, we're gonna go ahead and talk about this headphone. So overall, this is a very comfortable, portable, kind of very Sony-like headphone, right? It's kind of hitting all the pillars of what they want their headphones to be like. They want them to be warm, bassy, comfortable, which they are. Pretty good build quality, despite being plastic, but they are very lightweight. And all the plastic on here does feel very solid, so I can't complain about that. Now, the sound quality, which we're gonna come back to build in a second, but let's talk about sound quality for now. The sound quality is super warm, pretty bassy, pretty muddy, actually. And the treble response is fairly recessed, and that's one of the more disappointing parts is that treble response. It's fine for me, in my opinion, to have a recession in the treble response as long as that recession is met with a certain kind of standard of detail. And that's kind of what this headphone doesn't seem to have, is a lot of detail anywhere in the treble response. So when you match the recession with the lack of detail, it comes across very, I don't know, unrefined. It just doesn't sound crisp at all, which I guess could lean a little bit towards not having a fatiguing sound. I mean, after all, this is a headphone that you'd probably either wear at work because it doesn't leak a whole lot going in or going out. Maybe on the subway, maybe on the bus, maybe on a train or a plane. That rhymed unintentionally. Now, mid-range here is a bit of a chameleon. If you're on a very highly vocal focused song, or a very highly instrumental focused song, and I mean like acoustic instruments, this is a pretty good headphone. You know, it's pretty enjoyable. It's warm in tonality, but that's going to be very enjoyable for a lot of people. Now, this is going to work relatively well for super focused vocalists like Adele or Sam Smith or anybody who really kind of mixes the background music to be like 10 to 20 decibels lower than the singer's voice. This is going to display that pretty well, and it is going to be relatively enjoyable. The problem is for mixes that bring up the background music a little bit more. You know, any stepped forward or focused vocals tend to lose that focus a lot with more active background music, and the singer takes a big step back into the music and doesn't really separate as much as I would like. Now, bass response. Now, bass is going to be the biggest selling point of this headphone. And I say selling point not for me selling it to you, but the people who are going to be buying this are probably going to be buying it based off of the bass response. Based off the bass response, get it? That being said, the bass response here is not all that great in my opinion. There's a lot of mid bass here, like 100 to 300 hertz is very bloomed out. It's definitely what I would consider to be muddy. The sub bass, while it does go very deep, is very loose and muddy as well. You're not going to get a whole lot of dynamic range here. Actually, this headphone's not a very dynamic headphone at all. But another big portion of the bass response is that it just kind of sounds very like singular noted. It just doesn't have a lot of texture or nuance or detail to the bass response. Now, while that sounds harsh, if you are new to the channel and new to headphones as a hobby in general, you're probably still gonna like this headphone. You know, this is definitely towards the warm, bassy side of things that a lot of the kind of general population tends to enjoy. And that's what Sony has nailed down, and that is definitely the sound signature of this particular headphone. So if you're into that warmer sound signature, if you're coming from like a Bose headphone or another Sony, and you like what you're hearing already, this is going to be relatively within that spectrum with a very comfortable, lightweight, nice build quality headphone. Now I'll talk more about sound quality in the conclusion. First, imaging and soundstage. Imaging is actually pretty good on this headphone. Pretty decent, I'm not gonna lie. It's for 250 bucks, it's not class leading, but it's not bad by any means whatsoever. Soundstage is pretty much exactly what you would expect from a, mid-range close back headphone. It's just not that great. It's not horrible, but it's just not that great. Now the build quality and efficiency, and I guess with efficiency, we'll just wrap it up like this. You can power it off of anything. Phone, laptop, amplifier, doesn't matter, you can run it. And sound quality is not going to change hardly at all. Now build quality, the pads are amazingly plush. It is a very lightweight but plastic build, but the plastic is very solid. It doesn't creak or crack or make any noise whatsoever, which is very impressive. It is one of the more comfortable headphones I've tried in general, and it doesn't get too hot, which is a good, big plus. It is a single-sided connector on the left side, and the ear pads fold flat this way, but not this way. It does not fold up, but it does fold flat. So you can stick this in a backpack or in a small carry case, and you're gonna be just fine. Now, regarding the ear pad fit, I have pretty small ears, definitely on the smaller side. These kind of brush the outside of my entire ear. So if you have bigger ears, you're either gonna have to stuff them in this little kind of pocket area that they have here, or they might be uncomfortable for you. So the conclusion. Now, if you are a part of the general population who are coming from a pair of Beats or Sonys or Bose headphones and, basically anything you can buy at a Best Buy, are you gonna like this sound signature? Probably. From an audiophile or a technical perspective, it doesn't quite hold up to the standards that I would like in terms of sound quality, but I understand that that's not necessarily going to be the audience for this. Now, despite the conclusion that a lot of people are going to like this, this does not get my recommendation, and there's a very specific reason why. Build quality are definite selling points of this headphone. Comfort is a definite selling point of this headphone, but regarding the sound quality, there are simply much better headphones at significantly lower prices, even under $100, that are fairly comfortable, but more importantly, sound spectacular compared to these. And I have two recommendations, and they're essentially close to the same headphone. The Emu Purple Hearts from Massdrop, you can find a link down below, and the Creative Arvana Lives. Those are both closed back headphones. They're not quite as comfortable, but still fairly well built, very lightweight. A little bit less portable, but just about the same form factor. And they're gonna give you that similar warm sound signature, but the bass response is going to be a lot more well-controlled while still being very deep, hitting pretty hard. But the treble response in the mid-range and the sound staging is really like just an order of magnitude better than this headphone. And it comes in at a fraction of the cost. I highly recommend those. I'll leave links to this, everything I was talking about down below. Thank you very much for watching this particular video. If you do hit that thumbs up, I highly appreciate it. It does help me with the ever-changing YouTube algorithm. Stay tuned for the Sony Z1Rs. Thanks again to Israel for sending this out. I appreciate it. All right, guys, thanks very much. I'm Josh, signing off.